Now to an investigation of how Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump Jr. allegedly lied to sell Trump Soho condos in 2008, and how a criminal investigation into the matter was dropped after Trump lawyer Mark Kasowitz stepped in. With us now, Peabody Award-winning journalist Andrea Bernstein. She's the senior editor for politics and policy at WNYC News. Also with us, recipient of the Pulitzer Prize for National Reporting, Jesse Eisinger, and he's a senior reporter and editor at ProPublica. They're out with a new article written in collaboration with The New Yorker that openly questions whether President Trump's two eldest children used political contributions to avoid a criminal indictment. Andrea, perhaps in a case like this, it's hard to say we found the smoking gun. That said, Kasowitz gives what, a $25,000 contribution to Cy Vance, Manhattan's DA. The case is dropped. Kasowitz gets involved, right? And then supposedly, I guess Cy Vance gives the money back, but then Kasowitz circles back around and writes him a bigger check after the case is dropped. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, that is the fact pattern. I think what is really important to understand about this case is that it went on for 2 years, and senior prosecutors in the Manhattan DA's office felt that the email evidence that they had uncovered, email evidence that we weren't able to see, but that was described to us, in which the Trump children are coordinating the false stories they're telling buyers because they're inflating the value of these condos. So these emails in which they say that, another one in which they say, don't worry, no one will ever find out about this because the only people who know are on the email, are what is sort of keying the prosecutors in the office to believe there was a very case worth pursuing on the Trumps. And it went very far until the point at which Mark Kasowitz came in and met with Cy Vance, and after that, the case was dropped. Now, there were problems. It was a complicated case. The victims midway decided not to cooperate. It was a white-collar case, which are always difficult to prosecute, but there was compelling enough to go on for 2 years, and to the point where they were considering impaneling a special grand jury to look into it.
So, Jesse, the question that's usually asked in these sort of questions, other than following the money and seeing where the contributions came and the timing of dropping the case, one of the most damning things in these sort of cases would be when a DA, after meeting with somebody politically connected, decided to overrule prosecutors who worked in his or her office. Did that happen here?
Yeah,
did Cy Vance overrule the prosecutor's recommendations to go after the Trump children with charges?
Yeah, that's one of the key things that's one of the most troubling about this, is that not just the line prosecutor, and line prosecutors fall in love with their cases, but his supervisor, and then his supervisor, and then his supervisor. So all the way up the chain, the DA's office, people are believing in this case. They want to bring this to indictment. They're escalating it, as Andrea just said. You know, they're working to impanel special grand jury and have witnesses, and then the meeting with Kasowitz happens, and there's a tacit admission that the meeting is questionable because he gives the money back. Vance gives the initial donation back. Then the meeting happens, and the investigation seems to really trail off and really die at that point, and then 3 months later, Vance makes the ruling, overruling his prosecutors.
Okay, let's just get some reaction, because
Wow.
we've had some reaction to this reporting. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has issued a statement following the report, confirming the investigation and offering an explanation about why prosecution was declined. Quote, "This was a 2-year investigation that never produced sufficient evidence to support a criminal prosecution. During the investigation, the luxury apartment purchasers reversed course and took the position that the sellers had not committed any crime against them. No outside attorney influenced any decision in this matter." And attorney Mark Kasowitz told the reporting team that his donations to Vance were unrelated to the case. He said, quote, "I donated to Cy Vance's campaign because I was and remain extremely impressed by him as a person of impeccable integrity, as a brilliant lawyer, and as a public servant with creative ideas and tremendous ability." Kasowitz wrote in an emailed statement, "I have never made a contribution to anyone's campaign, including Cy Vance's, as a quid pro quo. for anything. So, Joe, we're starting to get, some response to the reporting there. This whole question of the buyers saying that there'd been no crime committed against them. I mean, that's really interesting, right? So why did they put that down?
It was without a doubt an impediment to the case. What we do know are the facts. The settlement happened in which the buyer said, we're not going to cooperate, we're refusing to cooperate unless we're subpoenaed, and by the way, their attorney sent a letter which would have to be introduced at trial, which said, I don't think it's a crime. So that is a problem. But the fact is that even after that, there was a belief.
And we don't know why they did that. We don't know what the conversations were
we know
with the defendants.
They
that made them do
received
that.
almost everything they asked for. They got their money from the Trump team, and so their lawyer was finished. He made the settlement. That was part of what the Trumps got out of that settlement. 9 months go by before the cases drop, and during that whole time, there was very serious discussion about should they continue. Now, as for the contributions, we don't know what the Trumps knew about Kazowitz's contribution. But we know what Donald Trump says about his own contributions, which he said in a debate in 2015, which is, I give so that when I want something, they will listen to me. That's a paraphrase, but that is what he said. So that is his philosophy of contributions. Again, we don't know about the discussion between him and Kazowitz.
First of all, in an age when newspapers are dying across the country and investigative reporting is dying as a result of veterans leaving with buyouts and everything like that, congratulations on the partnership. It's a way forward for a lot of investigative reporting in a lot of different areas. But in this specific case, you have two Trump children. You have a lot of emails that they're writing. If all this sounds familiar to today, I mean, stop me. You have a lot of emails. You have a Russian involved. And you have evidence of deception on the part of the two children. Is this the root of the charges that were brought against them, or potentially under indictment for? That they were telling people in this building down by the Hudson,
Holland
Tunnel, that the building was, 40%, 50% filled, 30% filled when it was largely empty. Yeah. Is this the root of the charges, deception?
Absolutely. So in a white-collar case, you have to prove intent. Very hard to prove. It's not like a murder where the crime has obviously been committed. So the emails demonstrated intent in the belief of the prosecutors because they were coordinating their lies. They knew they were lies. Not only that, then it has to be material. It has to matter to people. And what was happening here was they were not able to sell this white elephant because it wasn't just very expensive condos. They were very expensive condos that were actually also hotel rooms. You could only be in there 120 days. It was a difficult sale. So they were having major problems. They were going to have to return the money to buyers, and the whole thing was going to collapse.
So they lied.
So there was motive. They certainly lied. Vance thought they lied. There was this basically not a question that they lied. The question was it material, which it seems to have been, and did they coordinate, and did they have intent to lie?
Just to come back to this question about the settlement, how would you prosecute a case where a material part of the case, which is the injustice done to these buyers of the condos, are now saying nothing bad was done to them, they're happy, it was resolved satisfactorily? I think they got all but, 15% of their money back or something like that?
All but 10%.
10% of their money back.
The issue is, could you have compelled them to? Could you have brought in the person who defended that and said, what did you demand here? Why? Why did you offer this? Could there have been a more aggressive stance? What we do know is that senior level prosecutors in the office still thought the evidence was strong. And this is one of the reasons why we stuck with this story, because the fact that these people whose job it is to decide this thought, even with that problem, we want to keep moving forward because we think this evidence is so compelling.
All right, you can go online to read the full piece. It is a fascinating read, and again, there's so many things that are damning here. If you look at the fact that the prosecutors that worked under the DA wanted to move forward with the case, the DA met Donald Trump's personal lawyer who had given money, and I guarantee you they talked back and forth. We may not know exactly what that was, but it wasn't a mistake that Donald Trump sent Kazowitz over to talk to the DA. The DA then dropped the case, then gave back the money to Kasowitz, and then later took Kasowitz's money again after I guess he thought the coast was clear. That's pretty darn damning. Anyway, thank you so much, Andrea, for being with us. Jesse, thank you as well. Great reporting, and it's going to be interesting to see where the story goes from here. Coming up next, President Trump says the time to discuss gun policy will come later on. Remember, right after 9/11, that's what we said. We said we can't talk about terrorism right now. Why don't we wait 4 or 5 years? Actually, that isn't the way it worked then, and it's not the way it should work now. But Donald Trump saying let's not talk about it now. Does it mean that he's also willing to consider changes to American law, though, down the road? We have a live report from the White House straight ahead. Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.